So we're here tonight to explode a myth. And this is a complete BS lie of a myth that most of the culture believes, and which all of you tonight are at the forefront of challenging. And that myth is that because you're not getting a college education, or you're postponing it, or just perhaps doing away with college, that means you're not getting an education at all. And there are people out there who hate Peter Thiel's guts. They've actually written publicly about this, that he would even dare to suggest that smart young people such as yourselves not go to college. And in Slate magazine, for example, which is a national news publication, the editor-in-chief, a guy called Jacob Ellsberg, called Peter Thiel nasty, and what he was doing was appalling. And people have written that you, smart people that I've been getting to know this weekend, are actually fools for taking him up on his offer, and that you're all going to basically end up as garbage people because you don't have a college degree. So what we're going to do tonight is completely explode that myth. Because if even one bit of you, if one molecule, if one cell of you believes that you're not getting an education because you're happening not to go to college, you're not going to end up accomplishing what you want to accomplish. So the basic part of that myth, it says that essentially the only way to get an education is to go through a formalized schooling process that ends in college or graduate school. And I want to reframe that for you tonight. And what I suggest, is that the only way we can get an education, you, me, all of us in this room, is by finding people who are smarter, more accomplished, wiser than ourselves, and hanging around them and soaking up their wisdom and taking in their teachings. So that's all that education is for the most part. Now, one way to expose yourself to wiser, smarter, more experienced people is to go to college. That's the way most people do it, and that's the way that society says you have to do it. And of course, professors are some of the smartest people on the planet. A lot of them have done very amazing things, and that can be a great way to be around people that you're going to learn from and that you're going to soak up their teachings. However, I think that's, for a lot of people, a very inefficient way to get education. And the reason is that professors, as brilliant as they are, a lot of them, there are exceptions, but a lot of them haven't actually accomplished much in the real world. They went through schooling, they went through college, a lot of them went straight from college into graduate school, they went straight from graduate school into some kind of teaching, and they pretty much existed their whole life in this very comfortable, relatively cushy environment that is governed by bureaucratic rules and is highly insulated from the realities of making your way in a business or a marketplace. Now, there are certain areas where that's a great place to learn if you're going into the hard sciences. But if what you're interested in doing is starting a business, and that's what all of you are interested in doing, most of the people there, and there are exceptions, but most of them don't know a business from their elbow. And they collect these checks, they've had their tenure track. There's literally nothing they could do to get fired. They could run down their campus naked doing cartwheels, and they could not get fired. And that's just not the reality of business. The reality of business is, if you mess up, your customers fire you. So my argument tonight is that if what you're interested in doing is starting a business, which is why you're all here, those are the wrong set of mentors to be hanging around, because they don't know anything about business for the most part. Even a lot of people in business school. One of the guys I interviewed for my book, he said that he was getting an undergraduate degree in business, and he decided to drop out because he was parking in the same parking lot as these business professors, and he was driving kind of beat up used car that kind of students tend to have those kind of cars, and he noticed that was basically the same kind of car that the professors were driving, these used Honda Accords, and he's like, wait a minute. And not to say that you should judge your status by cars, that's kind of telling, right? So the way you get an education is by finding people who are experienced in the areas that you want to be experienced, and you hang around them and you learn from them. Now here's the tricky part, is that when you go to college, those older, wiser mentors are basically fed to you on a silver platter. You go there, the first thing that happens is that either you or your parents write a big fat check, and that goes into the college and it pays their salary. And then you get this nice fat course book that tells you the times where all the professors are. You get to choose like a menu where they're going to be. You go, and basically as long as you're in good standing, they have to provide some kind of mentorship. They have to have some office hours or something. So basically it's handed to you. And so one thing that your peers who are going through the college system are not learning is how you actually go and find mentors in the real world. Because I guarantee you, the people that you want to be learning from in your business, they don't have office hours. And they don't have a little course book that says, where you can sign up to take their course for the most part. So that's a real skill that your peers are not learning and that you're going to have to learn if you want to be successful, is how to go and find these mentors that are going to take you under their wing. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I'm going to be giving you some real practical tips on how you can go about and finding these mentors. And we're going to do some exercises also. So how do you go out? How do you find these mentors, these advisors, these people who are going to help you? And I know that you have access to some through the Thiel Foundation, through the Thiel Fellowship, but even them, there is a process where you have to convince them to go out of their way, to go the extra mile to help you. And also you're probably going to want to go beyond the ones that are available to you through the Thiel Fellowship. You're probably going to want to find other people in your individual fields. All of you last night said areas that you want help in, and as amazing as all the mentors are that you have access to, probably not all of them have that specific expertise that you need, so you're going to have to find those people. So the basic lesson of how to find these people, how to get them into your team, how to get powerful, connected people in your corner, is to give to them. And that sounds really strange, because if you think about it, you're looking for mentorship. You're hoping they're going to give something to you. How is it that you're going to give to them? And probably you have all kinds of beliefs, which I'm going to try to explode in a minute, about how you're young and you don't have anything to give, and you're looking for these people to give to you. But the way you bring these people into your corner is to give. And I'm going to describe some specific ways and what I mean by that. And when you go to college, you are giving to them, either you or your parents, by writing those big fat checks. So it's all set out for them. But the people that people who are actually doing real things out in the world and building businesses, they're busy. And they don't necessarily want to just, without any convincing, just take time out of their day to help some random person they don't know. They're just like all of us. They're busy. They've got a lot on their plate. And so you have to go through a kind of process of showing that you're bringing stuff to the table. And so what I'm going to talk about tonight, what we're going to actually practice, we're going to get off the seats and practice, is different ways that you can give to people who might become your mentors. And the three ways we're going to be talking about giving, the first one is, what do you have to give? What are the things that you might have to give? Well, the first one, and this is going to sound really surprising, is advice. When you're connecting, and not just mentors, but anyone, like a lot of you are going to a conference this weekend after the retreat, so you're going to be meeting lots of people who might be useful to your businesses. So the first thing that all of us have to give that is incredibly valuable is advice. Now again, this might sound kind of funny. You're looking for this person for advice. So what would you have to give? Why would you give them advice? Or what would you have to give? Well, there's this saying, like, don't show up to a party without wine. Like, you always want to show up with something. When you hold a party, who are you more psyched when you open a door? When it's like your friend is like, hey, we've got the drinks, we got the chips, we got the da-da-da, where should I put it? Is that more exciting to you? Or the person who shows up with his three friends is like, hey, where's the beer? They have nothing. It's like you always want to show up at the party with something to give. So you might be thinking, well, what kind of advice do I have to give? Well, so and there's a lot of different areas. All of you have more advice to give than you probably think. because you're all brilliant. I heard you speak last night. You all know things that other people you want to meet know about, and you're going to be learning more and more things as you become more successful as entrepreneurs, as you go into your fellowship years and beyond. You're going to be having more and more entrepreneurial skills, and that there's going to be some area where you can give. And a myth that a lot of people have, I have it, everyone has it, and particularly a lot of younger people, is that accomplished, established people, they have nothing to learn. And the more you believe that, the less useful you can become to those people. The more you hold it that you have valuable stuff to give, the more you're going to be able to become a valuable advisor to the people around you. And that's going to attract advisors to you. So I'll just give you some examples from my life, and then we're going to go around and collect examples from yourselves. So some things that I've studied a lot about are, I'm a writer. I have a background in copywriting, which is a pretty useful skill. It's basically the skill of how to get people to buy stuff through print. So I know how to write things that get people to buy things when they read that stuff, whether it's a service or a product or whatever. That's something I've learned a lot about. So that's an area, and not everyone knows that. And so I can help people in that area. I've studied a lot about sales. That's another area where I'm always looking, when I meet people, just reflectively, I'm either looking ways I can help them with marketing, I can help them with sales. And so those are two big areas that are tailored to me. That's because I've studied those things. But all of you have your own areas that you're brilliant in, and that are, you're entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur, by definition, is the person in the business that has to have the bird's eye view of the whole business. That has to know about marketing and leadership and sales and recruiting and managing and accounting and the tech side of things. Like you need to learn all those things and to be a successful entrepreneur. So you're either now or in the near future going to know about all these things. So I'd like to hear, like, what are some areas here? I mean, I heard you all speak last night where you feel like you have expertise that could be useful to a business owner that you were talking to. Just what are some ideas? So a lot of young people have it that youth is a disadvantage because you're inexperienced, but actually I believe it's an advantage because you all are plugged into stuff I've never even heard about. Like when I want to know what like the latest social network is or the latest app or whatever, I just had Dale Stevens. I just hosted him when he visited New York. He's one of your fellows. He's not here tonight because he's traveling. And he was telling me about all these apps I'd never heard of, all these different cloud things, and it's like I feel like I'm getting old. I'm 34. Like I feel so out of touch. So you all are clued in to what's happening right now. That's of enormous value, way more value than you could believe. There's literally companies that get paid millions of dollars to consult on what's hot now among people at your age. So you already know that. You don't need to hire a consultant to be able to consult on that because you're there, you know it. And one more thing that you can think of, advice that you could give. So technical things, anything technical. A lot of you were describing things last night that I didn't even understand. They were so technical. And most of you are tech whizzes. And that is incredibly valuable. So never for a minute think that because you're young or relatively inexperienced compared to a lot of business people, older business people, that you don't have valuable things to offer. You absolutely do. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to demonstrate how I do this when I'm networking with people, and then we're going to practice it ourselves. So to demonstrate, I need one volunteer. Okay? First guy, raise his hand. Great. So the setup is, we're going to pretend that we're at a networking event. There's not like 40 people on national television watching us. And basically the setup is that you're someone I want to connect with. You're someone who I see has some kind of value that would be valuable in my network, and I want to connect. And I'm actually, instead of asking him for things, which is how most people do it, right? Most people, when they want to connect with someone, it's basically like gimme, gimme, gimme attitude. It's basically like they come to the party and they're like, where's the beer? Where's the this? Where's the that? It's like it's just a taker attitude. We're going to do the opposite. When you want to connect with someone, you hit the gas on what you can give to that person. So we're gonna practice that a little. And the way I'm gonna do it, as I said, I have expertise in sales and marketing. So it's like that saying, like, give a kid a hammer and everything is a nail. So every conversation I have, I'm always angling for ways that I could see where I could add value in the areas that I know about. So translate it to what you know about, whether it's technology or youth, the most cutting edge youth things or whatever. Translate ways that you can add value in what you know about. So just before I begin, basically there's 3 stages to this. There's just a little bit of chit chat. Like, you can't just dive into this stuff. You gotta chit chat. The problem is most networking things stay at the chit chat level, right? They stay at the, like, where are you from, what neighborhood you live in kind of level. The next level you're going to get at is inquiry. You're going to really start inquiring, what is this person up to? And inquiring in ways that are kind of relevant to what ways that you might be able to add value. And then the third thing is you're actually going to start suggesting ways and just offer ways that you can add value to this person. So we're going to kind of pretend that. So, hey, how's it going? Chris.
I'm Chris.
Hey, good to meet you. So, how did you get connected to this whole event? Like, how did you find out about the Thiel Fellowship?
Well, initially I found out about the Thiel Fellowship when Peter Thiel gave a talk at a sort of very libertarian type conference in San Diego. So he just briefly mentioned 20 under 20, and I thought, hey, I like technology and I have ideas, so I looked into that more, and I suddenly found that, hey, here's this entire foundation that believes in many of the things that I do, so I thought of some technology that I thought could be really valuable and shared my ideas and thoughts with them, and away it went.
Great. Okay, so pause. So this was the chit-chat phase. Like this. I'm kind of rushing it because we're on this road, but it'll be back and forth and we'll be talking. Now I'm going to go into inquiry. So cool. So tell me again, what are you really looking to build? You think in these next few years?
I'm looking to build and develop new ideas and technology that increase people's access to information. Now, currently that's increasing the amount of, currently there are 5 billion disconnected people who aren't connected to the internet at all, really anyway. So connecting them is going to help to emancipate information and share more of a global idea of what's going on. People can become aware of more ideas of democracy or not even democracy, but true freedom in general. They become aware of how maybe their governments are corrupting them and can learn many new schooling ideas and become smarter people in themselves. So increasing access to information has a really global cause, and it's something that I really have a passion for.
Fantastic. So is that going to be a website, or is it...
It's delivering access to these censored countries via satellites, and there's a whole lot behind it.
Yeah, so, and like, where are you at now? I'm just curious, do you have like a proposal you're putting together that you're going to show funders, or like what?
Not really a proposal. I've been connecting with people who are like-minded to me and are doing what I've been doing, but they've been doing it for a long time. So it's like you were saying earlier, they have all these ideas and thoughts to offer me, and I'm connecting with them and really learning at this hugely accelerated rate. So what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of years is connecting with them and seeing what I can offer them and talking with them about what I would like to show them and assist them.
Yeah, cool. So, so I'm a writer, and one area I have a lot of expertise in is like putting together proposals, basically, on like that explain. So you could have like a one-pager that would explain exactly what you're doing quickly to people that you want to connect with in that networking you're doing. And like that's something that that I know a lot about. And if you're curious, I'd be happy to at some point just like sit down and help you like put what you were talking about in a really quick like one bullet point kind of form that would just get the points across really quickly to the people you're trying to connect with.
Okay, fantastic. I'd love to chat with you.
Awesome. Cool. Do you have a card?
Yeah, sure.
That was a little bit awkward. It was a little bit like formulaic, and part of it was because we're doing it really quickly, that would probably last over 15 minutes or so in a or 10 minutes in a more natural setting. But if you saw, most people, they go into a networking context and they're like ping pong, they're like pinball machines. They just kind of go here and they go there, and they kind of bump into people, and there's no plan, there's no directionality. And when I network, I have massive directionality, and it's not around what can I get, it's who can I meet in this room that I can help. And I'm pretty clear about the ways I can and cannot help. I don't know anything about technology, so I'd be hurting someone if I tried to do anything with their technology, but I know a lot about writing. So I'm always have that directionality. Again, it was a little bit formulaic in like 3 minutes, but you saw I was directing that conversation, first chit-chat, kind of getting a rapport going, then inquiry, finding out what he was up to, what was important to him, and then directing it in ways where I knew that I could add value. And and then I offered to help. And that's a really key thing, is that givers gain, givers get. That's a motto. There's actually a networking group called Business Network International, and they have this motto, givers get. So in my experience, I just find people that are doing amazing things, and I add value to them without any expectation in return, and I always get stuff back. I don't know why it works that way. I don't know, it's like some mystical law of the universe or something, but it's like you put yourself out there and people want to help you back without you even asking them. And it just works. It really works. Just try it, trust that it works, and it does. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to come back to some more ways you can give, but we're going to practice this with each other. And we're going to, in just a moment, we're going to get up, and in pair, you're going to go in pairs, and you're going to practice this back and forth. So everyone get up, you can spread around the room and find a pair. All right. Now let me ask you, so if he just helped you with something that's real in your business, do you have a sense now that this is someone you want to kind of hang out with more? So the reputation you want to develop in your network is like the person who hooks people up with awesome stuff, like advice. We're going to be talking about connecting people in network. You want to be just known as that person where if you're around, whoever's around you is going to learn stuff, is going to get connected, is going to somehow get closer to their goals. That's great. Any other experiences? And now if he ever came to you and said, hey, I need some help on such and such, do you feel you'd be more inclined?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Exactly.
Before.
Okay, and I saw one other hand. Something you said that I think is really important is that it sounds like basically what was happening here was you were proactively looking for ways to add value. So it wasn't like you were waiting around, because people generally don't admit areas they need help in. They're not vulnerable like that. So you actually want to structure your interactions where you're kind of always angling a little bit to find out, okay, well, what is this person up to? How can I add value? And if you go around with that mentality, you're just going to attract all the people wanting to help you possible. It's like that saying, all the world loves a lover, and all the world loves a giver. And all the world loves and hates a taker. All the world hates a taker. So, and most people are takers. So for example, I'm an author. I have my second book coming out. I get emails all the time from people. There's a lot of people out there who want to write books. And they find me, they ping me up on Facebook or Twitter or email. And the vast majority of the emails just have this really taking at the energy. It's like, hey, you don't know me at all, but can you hop on the phone and give me an hour of advice, for free, basically? And that's the kind of energy. They don't even come out and say that, and that doesn't get those people very far. And whereas sometimes I get emails where people say hey, I've got this community who is learning about such and stuff, and they would love to hear your perspective on such and such. Can you talk to this community? I mean, there's a simple thing where they're looking to add value. So we just learned right now about giving advice. The next thing, another big thing you can give and always be giving, and it's already come up in your example, is giving connections. This is huge, 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 huge. And you already are incredibly connected young people. First of all, you're connected to all each other. So just by being in this room, in this group, you have 24, 23 connections to amazing other people who are doing amazing things. And you've all got media attention. You all have connections to the media. You all have connection to 60 Minutes right here. Like, you're connected to 60 Minutes. So you all have connections. You're connected to amazing people through the Thiel Foundation. You're going to be getting more and more attention. So you can always be giving generously of your connections. So that's the next thing we're going to be talking about and demonstrating. And here's a really, and giving a connection can take only a few minutes, and it can change someone's entire business. If you connect someone, for example, right here, the connection that was just made in that couple of minutes, it could possibly change the course of your business if you get connected to this amazing mentor, this amazing investor. So it's a highly leveraged activity in that a couple of minutes of effort can have a massive impact on someone's life. And it's just an incredible impact that you can have through these connections. Now, a key to connecting is that it has to give value to both parties that you're connecting. That's really, really important. So, for example, you all now, and I am, and everyone here has some connection to Peter Thiel, who is known as one of the top leading lights of venture capital, and he's known as kind of a leader in Silicon Valley. And there's a lot of people who would like to be connected to Peter Thiel. In fact, I've gotten people know that I interviewed him. I've already gotten about 3 or 4 emails from people in my network who have companies who are like, hey, can you show my business plan to Peter Thiel? And the thing is, a lot of those ones, it has to have value both ways. So I actually have connected Peter to some people, but only in those few instances where I felt it had value to him. Because if every person I know and every person you know, a lot of people are going to know that you have access to investors now, and that you're going to get your friends and your buddies who have business plans saying, hey, can you show this business plan to some of the VCs you know? If every one of those you forward because you want to do your buddy a favor, if those are low value to the other person, pretty soon that person is going to start just hitting delete whenever they see your email, because they're going to associate you with like, oh, you're the person who always is trying to connect me to kind of low value opportunities. So it has to be something where it's really going to be valued in both ways. Now I do this. I am kind of known in my world as a connector. I've just connected so many different people to different people. Just one example. I was in New York. I live in New York. I was on the East Coast, and there's this fantastic party I knew about that was happening last weekend. And I so wish I could have been there, because all my friends were going to be there, amazing people, entrepreneurs. And I wasn't there. I couldn't go. I was on the East Coast. But I just had this feeling that Danielle would really like these people at this party. So I actually invited her to a party I was intending so that she could go and meet all these people, and I knew that they would love to meet her. So did you have a good time?
It was awesome.
Did you meet good people?
I met wonderful people.
And so do you have a sense of me as like, I'm the kind of person that
Most definitely.
Yeah. So just that one act kind of creates goodwill. And if I ever needed advice from Danielle, then she's probably more likely to give it to me now that I've gone and kind of led with generosity than if I just came to her and was always asking for things and wanting things. Now, one other key point before we go into some demonstrations, you have to, even though eventually it is going to come back to you, you have to do it with an intention purely of giving. You have to just trust that if you give, it's going to come back to you some way or another. People can smell, that kind of sleazy feeling when you kind of just know that someone is trying to get something from you, and you have to avoid that feeling. When you're just that kind of used car salesman feeling where you can tell everything they're doing is designed so they can get something out of you. So you have to just be generous with quality people and trust that in one way or another it's going to come back to you. If you do it with some intention, like, hey, I want to get such and such from this person, and therefore I'm going to give them such and such, people are smart. They feel that out, and it's just going to feel icky to them. So it has to just be purely out of you wanting to be of service and help. So what we're going to practice now is a similar demo, but instead of advice, we're going to talk about connections. And so I want one more volunteer. We have another volunteer to come up. Okay, great. And so I'm gonna again have this conversation. It's going to be like we're at a networking event or just meeting. I'm going to say one other thing is that the connections don't have to be business. So, for example, the connections I made for Danielle were mostly social, and I'm always looking for ways to connect people to cool things, to cool scenes. Romantic connections. Two of my big mentors. Okay, yeah, he's red. He's looking at me. No, but seriously, I'm shameless about this. I'm always looking to connect people. I have two very well-known mentors. One of them I'm certain you would have heard of. He's a best-selling author. I connected him to a woman he's really seriously dating right now. Another mentor who has just offered to do a huge amount of book promotion for me without me even asking, and he has a massive, massive audience. I introduced him to the woman he's marrying in September. So, I wonder if there's any connection there. I didn't ask for it. But this guy, I have a lot of goodwill with this guy now because I connected him to the right person. So, I won't go with the romance. but so we're going to just do this role play. Hey, what's your name again?
Nick.
Nick. Hey, Michael. Great to meet you. So tell me again, I know you talked last night. Tell me again what you're up to with the Thiel Foundation.
So my project, you mean?
Yeah.
So my project's called Open. It's an education project. We're trying to open up the classroom as a more discussion forum and sort of get rid of lectures during the classes using technology.
So you're creating a platform where they can learn at home, basically.
Yeah, it's similar to the Khan Academy.
Right.
So the teachers create lessons and the students watch at home.
Oh, that's. And where are you at right now with the business? Are you building the technology?
We've been building technology for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. We also put up a brochure site asking for teachers, and we've had about 250 or 300 apply.
Oh, wow.
For this year to keep using it.
I'm curious, what's the revenue model? How are you going to build up?
Working on that. We're thinking of selling administrative services to the schools in general, so they can monitor the different classes that are being given. We're playing the theater.
Cool. And so it sounds like it's a fairly young company, but it's growing really quickly. Cool. I should connect you. So my business mentor is a guy who I think is one of the world's best experts in taking early stage companies and growing them really quickly. And he works for really large companies down to small ones and growing them. And just hearing what you're up to, I have a feeling that if you had a conversation with him, he could totally help you get to where you want to go.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Cool. Yeah, we should connect. I'll connect you guys.
All right.
Do you have a card?
Yeah.
Key point. The answer to that question should always be yes. I don't care if you are in the supermarket. I don't care wherever. You always have a car. So.
You only have pockets of phones. You can
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So again, usually that would probably happen over more 10 minutes or something, or 15 minutes. We did it in about a minute. So it's a little bit contrived when you're trying to compress it like that. But you get the basic idea, is that I'm asking, well, first of all, I have a fairly wide network. And it's one of these things where it's the rich get richer. It's a snowball effect. So the more people you have in your network, you're already starting from a great place. But the more people you get in your network, the more you can plug more people into it and offer them connections, and then they are in your network, and then they want to connect you to people, and it becomes this growing thing. But so I know a lot of people who are useful to business owners. like my mentor, who, by the way, he became my mentor because I helped him in all these different ways that we've been talking about tonight. He's someone who knows a lot about how to grow businesses. So anytime there's someone who's got an awesome business idea, he may be someone that I connect that person to. And so that's the basic idea. So we're going to repeat the exercise. We're going to find a different partner, and we're going to spend about a couple minutes each going through the same process of inquiry, finding out what they're up to, and then offering to connect someone in your network where there's going to be value in both ways for that connection to happen. So find a partner. So I think networking is one of the most important activities you can possibly do. It gets a bad rap. First of all, the word networking has a lot of bad connotations, and that's because most people do it really poorly. There's a lot of bad connotations around networking. It's schmoozing, kissing ass, brown nosing, those kind of things. And it has a bad rap. So that's bad networking. That's doing it in the taker way. When you know that feeling when you've been to business cocktail or business events, whatever it is, and there's just people in the room, they're like vultures, and they're just like scanning the room like, who can I get something from? Who can I get something from? And they're just trying to take. And so what you're doing is the opposite. You're going around the room and it's, who can I give to? Who can I give to? Now this isn't totally selfless. You're in a room with successful, powerful people, and you're choosing to give to those business people. So it's not just like random charity. Like there is a certain directionality to it, but within that context, there's no quid pro quo. You're just giving, giving, giving. And so to answer your question, I once got really curious about how I was spending my days and like what kind of activities made up my work. And so every time I was doing a chunk of work, I would kind of tag it with like, okay, is this networking? Is this writing my books? Is this kind of general business maintenance? Is this like frittering my time on Facebook? I'm going to talk about social networking in a second. And about half my time was networking. And like a lot of people would say it's really bad. Like you have to be building your business. But here's the thing. One connection can transform your entire business. If you get one connection to the right investor, that can transform not only your business, but the rest of your life. One connection to one client, that client could be 80% of your business. So you never know where these things are going to come from. If you put yourself in the right environment, business conferences, I love going to business conferences. There's something called Summit Series. How many people have heard of Summit Series? Look it up. It is a premier network of young entrepreneurs. I just went, I was actually on the older side. I'm 34. My wife and I went. Most of the people there were in their early or mid-20s. And it is where business networking for young people is happening right now. It was on a boat in the Caribbean for a weekend. And it's just this environment where everyone is meeting everyone, and everyone's just there to help. And no one, it's like you just meet someone, it's like, how can I help? It's just two questions. What are you up to? How can I help what you're up to? And the amount of stuff that came out of that, I mean, there were millions of dollars of investments came through that. Clients got connected. I got a speaking agent out of going. I got a column on Forbes out of going. I got some really great speaking gigs. So I'm a big believer in networking. So one other point on that is social networking. We're all on Facebook, we're all on Twitter. People, that gets a really bad rap. Like it's mostly talked about in like that it's wasting time, that when you're on those things you should be building your business and you're just wasting time. So there's, I think, non-useful ways to use those tools and useful ways. The non-useful way is basically just entertainment, which is fine if you need to relax at night. Instead of watching TV, you can just hang out and chat on IM or Facebook with your friends or whatever. That is not necessarily going to be useful for your business. The way to use it that's useful for your business, and I do consider this to be time well spent, even in the middle of your workday, is when you have met someone that you want to connect with. Like connect with them on Facebook. comment on what they're saying on Facebook, @reply them on Twitter, comment with people that you want to connect with. Like, amazing things have come out in my life, like business partners, connections that I've either met on Facebook and Twitter through like responding to stuff that they've posted, or I met them in person, and because we're 3,000 miles away, I'm able to continue the networking that way. So I do think there's value there. Eventually, you're going to build your businesses so that the other people are like the doers. Like, there's other people who are going to do the different roles in your business. There's people who are going to do, the coding. There's people who are going to do, sales and this. And one of the most important roles of the entrepreneur is rainmaking, and networking is the way to rainmaking. So there's almost, as long as you feel you're connecting to good people, there's almost no level at which I would say stop networking. I mean, pretty much everything that you want is going to come through networking. Like, investors, for the most part, don't invest in cold opportunities. It's very, very rare that a business plan will come in cold and get an investment. It always comes in through connections. Same thing with clients. There are ways, obviously, to get customers through marketing that you don't know. But for really big accounts, they're going to come through a referral, almost always. And for like high net worth people, it almost always comes through referral. So you're all in fairly young businesses that are going to need help. You're going to need advice, guidance, mentorship. And so what we've been learning tonight is the way to get that help is not necessarily to go with empty hands and be begging for help. It's to already use the resources you have, which are amazing. I mean, you are some of the most connected, just by knowing each other and being connected to the whole Peter Thiel world, you're some of the most connected young people on the planet already. So you have so many resources to start giving, and then when you give, you're going to create that sense of goodwill that you just. So the last point we're going to talk about tonight, before we wrap it up, is I think you all have a sense of just how much value you have to give each other, to give other people, both with the advice and with your connections. But just in case there's any part of you that still feels like, oh, I'm really young, I'm relatively inexperienced, if you have a party that feels that's wondering, well, really, what value do I have to give? There's a third thing that you can give potential mentors and potential people who are going to be your guides that is incredibly valuable, and I don't want you to ever underestimate. And that is your willingness to bust ass putting their advice into practice. That is really, really valuable, and it attracts mentors. So successful people, in my experience, want to pass on a legacy. They've worked really, really hard to get where they are. I just interviewed 50 millionaires, 6 billionaires. They didn't get where they are by slacking off. Like, they went against the odds. They went up against all kinds of criticism, all kinds of naysayers who said they were never going to amount to anything because they don't have a college degree. Peter last night was saying how when you go from 0 to 1, you're seen as kind of crazy because it's never been done before. And that's what you all are doing. You're going from 0 to 1. You are at the cutting edge of smart, brilliant young people who are deciding to educate yourselves instead of go through this preconditioned track that's been set up for other people to get educated in. So you're gonna, so basically these people that I interviewed have all gone against the odds. They've accomplished amazing things, and they actually want to pass that legacy on. But they don't want to pass it on to takers. They want to pass it on to givers, because that's how they can multiply their gift. They know that if they pass on their wisdom and their teachings to people who push it into action and make stuff happen, that their gift is going to be multiplied and it's going to go farther and farther. So there's basically two ways you can approach mentors, and the way most of people do it is the wrong way, which is the taker attitude. So it's basically like, and I get emails like this too. I've been on both ends of it. I'm always seeking out mentors, and because I've achieved a certain amount of success in the publishing world, a lot of people want to publish books, and they come with me kind of seeking me to be a mentor. So I've been on both ends of this. And the wrong way, and I've received this, is kind of what I described. Like, it's basically like, it feels like a leech. It's basically like, hey, you don't know anything about me, but can you go out of your way to spend hours and hours repeating probably stuff that you said elsewhere so that I don't have to go through the trouble of reading your blog posts or whatever. And that's kind of they don't say that obviously, but that's kind of the attitude. It's basically like, what can you give to me? That's the wrong way to go about it. The right way, when you want to really demonstrate that you are going to use what these mentors tell you and put it into action, is to do your homework. So you met a bunch of amazing mentors last night, and you're going to go beyond that and probably be meeting all kinds of people in this experience you're going through who could be mentors to you. So the way to do it is you do your homework. So if you want someone to be your mentor, you don't just call them up or email them barely knowing anything about them. You read, you Google them. You spend an hour on Google reading news articles about them, read any social media stuff they have, read their Twitter feed, see who is interconnected between you on Facebook, read any blog posts, read their book if they have it, go out and buy their book, read it. Do your homework. And then you say, when you contact them, you have a specific reason why you're contacting them. So instead of like, hey, can I just pick your brain? Erase that phrase from your vocabulary. Erase pick your brain from your vocabulary. Do any of you want to have your brains picked? Does that sound like a pleasant activity? That sounds like a leech. So erase it. So instead you say, instead of, hey, can I pick your brain? Say, hey, I've read your 3 books, and I was just so blown away by this point you made in book X, and it really changed my perspective on that. But I've been reading all your stuff, and there's this one point that I haven't seen how that can apply to my solar business or my biotech business. I don't quite get the gap on how that would apply to my business. Would it be okay if I just asked you a few questions at some point on how to apply such and such to what I'm doing? You see how that's different? Does that feel different to you all? So that shows that you are someone who does your homework, that takes their time seriously, so that any time they spend is going to be multiplied by you putting it into action, and they get the satisfaction of seeing their teachings spread out and put into action. But you got to do your homework to get that. So in closing, the last point I'm going to make is I really believe that you, 23 people in this room, are at the cutting edge of a revolution that's happening right now. You may not know it, but right now there's a revolution happening in education. People are seeing that the old models are crumbling. The old models are causing young people your age, your peers, to go into tens, possibly even hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt, where they learn skills which are outmoded, which are not relevant to them actually having a career, and which may even lead them to be completely broke and in debt when they graduate. And there's a statistic that actually Dale shared with me that 22% of people with BA degrees under the age of 25 are unemployed right now, and another 22% are working a job that didn't require BA. They're pouring you your coffee in the morning. So for almost 50% of young people with BAs are doing things that are either like unemployed or just doing stuff that has nothing to do with having a BA. So that's a problem. That's a system that is broken. And you are at the forefront of a trend that is changing that system. And this is the first time, you're all brilliant, I heard you all speak last night. Mostly society tries to funnel people as brilliant as you into these very narrow academic tracks, where you're going to go and you're going to learn from these professors, you're going to do this track that's already been done by millions of people before you. And you're at the forefront of an organization, a program, which is, as far as I know, the first program which is saying, no, don't go in that track. Go out and find your own teachers in the real world. So you're some of the first generation of young people who is realizing that your education is going to come from people like the mentors you met last night. And what we've been doing tonight is giving you the tool set to go out and find those teachers, go out and find those real world professors who are going to give you the education that's going to give you the success that you want. Thank you so much.